here in studio. Bud Elliott, CBS Sports, and the Cover 3 podcast. Make sure you check that out. The Summer School, I'll just say this, the Summer School podcast that you did previewing every single team, if you did 2 cross-country road trips like I did, really came in handy this summer. So much appreciated. A lot of Bud Elliott driving in my car. I shot him a text, Brett, as I was driving past the exit for Morgantown, West Virginia. I was listening to the West Virginia preview.
Nice.
So much appreciated. Make sure to check that out if you haven't done so by far. Action Network, of course, where Brett McMurphy is at. So we could obviously go anywhere with this, but teams to make the college football playoff, you look at a handful that are odds-on favorites. Obviously Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon are massive favorites to make it. And then you get a little bit further down, even Notre Dame, odds-on favorite. Ole Miss as an odds-on favorite, and Penn State as well. So let's look at those 3 teams. And Notre Dame got some unfortunate news this week that their starting left tackle, Charles Jagasaw, done for the year. We saw the market, Bud, drop from 49 to 47 on that total. Texas A&M take a little money in that market as well. Let's look at week 1, and then we can expand big picture. What do you expect to happen in College Station, and were you part of that? Because I was part of that under money.
No doubt. I mean, I had already planned to be as part of that.
Yeah.
I figured the game would close like 45.
Yep.
But 2 really, really good defensive lines. A&M's got 3 or 4 guys they expect to be drafted. 2 really good defensive minds there, obviously on both sides of the ball, at the head coach and also at the coordinator positions. And 2 quarterbacks I like a lot, but 2 offensive lines with some real questions, and maybe not a whole lot of like coordination and meshing going on there with the new quarterback at Notre Dame, and obviously the new offense there for A&M. So I think under was the right move there, and getting Nick Scorton from Purdue for Texas A&M is going to be a problem for A&M on that opening night. It's just, I don't know how the backup handles him. Probably not well.
You look at Notre Dame's schedule. It's a 3-game schedule. A&M, Florida State, USC. Is Mr. Notre Dame, you probably know this, 3rd year is Lucky Charms for the Irish.
It's either Lucky Charm or this guy's got to go.
Yeah, Ty Willingham or
Charlie Weissman,
Bob Davie.
I think they were like
or a national championship.
Yeah.
So my thinking is, which Notre Dame team are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that was competitive? It should have beat Ohio State, but couldn't count past both hands. Or are we going to get the one in Marcus Freeman's first year that lost at home as big favorites to Marshall and Stanford? I don't really have a good read on that. 10, I would absolutely go under. If you tell me they've got to win 11 games to beat me, give me the under. Because at worst, I think I'm going to push on that.
Yeah, I think there's still there's 10.5s out there, so I would say go shop around. You have to pay some extra juice, but I talked to Pete Sampson. I don't want to spend the whole segment on Notre Dame because we got other things to touch on.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I really don't. Because we did that on the podcast, so check that out. But he said 9 wins would be an absolute disaster when you think about all the money that is on this roster. And it's the coaching staff, highest paid coordinators, I believe, in college football, and Al Golden and Mike Denbrock. Retention, keeping Benjamin Morrison, keeping Howard Cross, keeping Riley Mills, getting Riley Leonard. I mean, Notre Dame is all in on this year, and all in is they want a playoff game at home, and it starts with Texas A&M week 1 there. Do they get in, Brett, with 10 wins? I don't think they do. I mean, I guess it's how it plays out.
Yeah, it's how I think so. They may not host a game, but they're not going to drop below the top 12 or top 11. Group of 5 will be outside the top 12. 10-2 Notre Dame, I think, is in the top 11.
Bud, Ole Miss, a lot of hype. Speaking of big-time portal, they went out. They spent a ton of money in the portal. Jackson Dart is back. Do you believe in Ole Miss? Are they a playoff team this year?
I bet them to go to the playoff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that they are likely a playoff team. They did a lot of work as far as the line of scrimmage, which, I mean, Georgia over Ole Miss was one of my largest bets of the year last year. Just because I didn't think they had the physicality to hang with UGA. It's also helpful that I think the rest of the league, with the exception of maybe Georgia, has come back to them a little bit. Like, they've improved, but Bama's clearly a downgrade, right? I think Texas is a bit of a downgrade from where they were last year in terms of a power rating. So Ole Miss has ascended a little bit in my ratings, but also Bama and Texas have come back to them a little bit, which helps me feel pretty good they'll make the playoff.
Lane Kiffin this year, Brett, it's pressure's on him, man.
Pressure's on. Yeah, and the one thing we don't know is how will Ole Miss live up to these expectations. Yeah. I mean, Kiffin talked about it in Dallas at SEC Media Days. Rat poison. He doesn't want to hear about how good they're supposed to be. double-digit wins last season. If they win double digits again this year, Lane Kiffin will be the first coach to do that at Ole Miss, since some guy named John Vaught did. Who's he? Well, they named the stadium after him. So maybe they'll call it Portal King Field at Vaught Stadium, Vaught Hemingway Stadium. I really like Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss and Missouri are kind of being paired together as SEC sleepers that maybe can get to the playoff. I like Ole Miss much, much more than Missouri. Missouri lost their running back. I just think they're more solid overall. I don't know if you agree with me, Bud, but I think Missouri last year, their win-loss record, very impressive. A lot of coin flip games that could have, should have gone the other way. You hit a 61-yard field goal to beat Kansas State. I had him that day.
Thank you very much for that kick. That was awesome.
Nice time management there at the end of the game. So, but I really like Ole Miss. They're strong. The unknown, and you don't know till you get in this situation, is how do these kids, how do they deal with now they're, it's cliche, now they're the hunted, not the hunter, and you have all these expectations on them.
But when you look at Alabama, Kalen DeBoer steps in. Their win total sits at 9.5. They haven't won less than 10 regular season games since 2010. Now, the schedule's very challenging, and I don't think Wisconsin's, I know I listened to you guys. I know that you guys aren't really that high on Wisconsin this year, but you got to go to Camp Randall. It's always a tricky place to play. Oh, there's Georgia. That should be fun. At Tennessee, you get Missouri, at LSU. There's not a lot of layups outside of, Mercer, even South Florida. Hell, they almost beat them last year. So, and I think South Florida could be, a sneaky team in the AAC. So, Kalen DeBoer, year one, you get plus money on the over. What do you expect from the Crimson Tide this year?
So, I did bet Alabama to make the playoff. I think it was plus 30 or plus 20. I took an under 6 conference wins.
I love the conference win total market, by the way. It is awesome.
I do too, because some of these other books, you can't scrape them. You actually have to search into team by team. So I feel like that some of the guys who just arbitrage only, it's more of a pain.
Yeah, for me, real quickly, I wanted to bet Houston under, and I was too late to the 4.5. Oh, 2.5 conference wins. Okie dokie. Duke, I wanted to bet under 6.5. Gone. 5.5. 2.5. Okay, I'll take that. So, yeah, look around. Conference wins is an interesting market.
In the last 3 years, Kalen DeBoer, as an offensive coach or head coach, has had his quarterback be either a 1,000-yard rusher or the team's leading rusher 3 times. So I'd be much more concerned if I thought he was trying to make Jalen Milroe into Michael Penix.
Right.
I think he's going to run the heck out of Jalen Milroe.
So let's wrap on this. Bud Elliott over there, Brett McMurphy here. We're in the time right now, and all three of us have been doing it for multiple months. So now it's the kind of rush of, I love this team, and you're starting to hear these teams percolate, and you're like, oh man, I don't buy in on that. So Brett, I'll start with you. Who is the one of the darlings out there that you're not buying?
I don't know necessarily if Missouri's a darling.
Yeah, I'd say
that. But I on my AP preseason top 25 ballot, I think I had them down at 15 or 16. Which, of course, their fan base piled on, saying, why are they ranked behind Kansas State? And, they'd lost their stud running back. Last year, I think the win-loss record was misleading. That stuff usually evens out. And, you got Alabama and Oklahoma in consecutive weeks at A&M. I want to see them do it.
Why are they going to UMass? Can you do a deep dive on why they're playing a game?
Because they've never been to the worst stadium in college football, and they wanted to go. But it was funny. I saw Drinkwitz at SEC spring meetings and back in around Memorial Day, and he was actually getting off the elevator, and I grabbed him, and I'm like, where is it? I can't find it. And he goes, find what? And I said, the bullseye. You're going to be preseason top 10. And he goes, it's right here. So I think, not that they're feeling the heat, but they know the expectations. Yeah. So if they're these cliche, trendy pick, I'm actually going against them.
Bud? SMU. I bet this team a lot last year, but oftentimes they were facing backup quarterbacks at the American Conference level. They also dodged a lot of the better offenses in that league last year. They didn't play USF. They didn't play UAB. So, they were really beating up on what was a terrible collection of offenses last year. And I think the step up in competition is more than people realize.
Yeah, they went 0-3 against Power 4 teams last year, right? Oklahoma, TCU wasn't really that good, and then they lost the bowl game. It's funny because you look at the schedule before we get out of here. Where's Clemson? Where's Miami?
They miss everybody.
They miss everybody except Florida State. But that said, I did play over 7.5 at SMU, and a week after I made that bet, I'm like, you know what? I don't really love this bet.
Yeah, but you
There's been
you
six.
timed it right.
There's been 16 schools that have changed conferences in the last dozen years. Of those 16, only 3 have had a winning record in conference play their first year in their new league. Take that for what it's worth.
Making me feel really good about my
There you
win
go.
total.